Hi guys and welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. Now today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little guy. Very simple to make. I take you through everything step by step. But how amazing would it be to do your fruitcake like this for a customer? It's just that little bit different. We've seen all the unicorn cakes and then we've got the reindeer cakes coming out. So what if we turn Santa Claus into something a little bit similar, but he needs a hat? I have kept this hat as simple as possible throughout the whole tutorial. I take you through everything step by step, everything you need to know. Just give it a go. As soon as you realise how easy he is to make, I know you'll give him a try. Happy baking everyone. Please do subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, and I will be back soon with an awful lot more tutorials. Now let's make a start. For the purpose of this Santa cake tutorial, I am using a 6-inch round cake dummy. You will just want to bake a 6-inch cake, crumb coat it and fill it like you normally do, and then just leave it in the fridge until everything has set. We're going to be turning 600 gram of white Renshaws fondant into more of a flesh colour for Santa's face. To do this, we're going to be using the chestnut sugar flare. All of the measurements and everything that you are going to need will be in the description below this video. So here I have 600 gram of the Renshaws white fondant. And to actually add your food colouring, if you just use a cocktail stick, take a small amount at a time and then you just knead in the colour. So this is the sort of colour with plenty of kneading and just adding a little bit extra at a time that you're wanting to achieve. Now I'm choosing to roll my fondant in between something called spacers. You may have seen me use these in tutorials before. They're exactly 5mm thick, and it just means when my rolling pin's going over them, I will have a lovely even covering. Yours is going to be cake, so if you've just taken it out of the fridge, let your crumb coating go slightly soft before you add this, just so it's got something to adhere to. In this case, because I'm using a cake dummy, I have just covered it with some cooled down boiled water. So the next step, using some icing sugar, is to simply roll out your fondant. Once you have rolled out your chestnut coloured fondant, using your rolling pin, if you just lift it over the actual rolling pin, I'll bring this more central. Now it will be slightly more difficult for me because it's a cake dummy, so there's no weight to it, so I'm going to have to hold it in place. But for a cake you will have no problems. Simply place over the fondant and then start to negotiate the pleats down the sides. Now these are called smoothers if you're not used to baking, and basically if you have 2 of them it just means you can smooth down all of this lovely fondant that you've just placed onto the cake. Sharp knife and then just cut off the excess fondant. So then, using your smoother again, just continue to smooth this out totally until you're happy with how it looks. This is the best part, making Santa's hat. Now I'm choosing to use the half ball tin, so I've got a 6-inch half ball and 2 4-inch half ball tins. If you want to do it completely freehand, it's no problem there. I'm just doing this to make it slightly easier. So how do you make Rice Krispie treats? Well, you want double the marshmallows to the amount of Rice Krispies. So if you're choosing to use these 3 pans, I have got exactly 200 gram of Rice Krispies and then 400 gram of marshmallows. Really versatile, great to work with. Don't worry if you've got any left over because you can just eat it yourself. They're absolutely delicious. All I'm going to do off camera is melt these marshmallows in this pan, which you can see I've already placed some butter in there. You want to do it on an extremely low heat. This will just prevent the marshmallows from burning, and the butter also helps stop the marshmallows from burning. So once I have melted these, I will then show you how to create the Rice Krispie treats and what we're going to do with these pans. So I've just melted the marshmallows, and this is the consistency you're looking for. I'm now going to add the weighed out Rice Krispies and simply stir them in. Now I did used to do this the opposite way round. So I used to pour the melted marshmallows out of the pan into whatever bowl the Rice Krispies were in. But I found they started to set a little bit too quickly. Because there's still an awful lot of heat in this pan, it just helps you stir them and get exactly what you want a lot easier. So I would recommend, if you have a pan large enough, to do it this way round. And just keep on stirring them in. And that is exactly what you're looking for. Now this pan is still slightly hot, so I'm going to leave it on here. You will notice I've placed some butter on a spoon. That's just to help grease my hands when I add it to these tins. Now, I'm quite okay with sugar whilst it's still hot, but whilst the Rice Krispie treats are still like this, you might find them a little bit too hot for you to manage. So if that's the case, just let them cool down slightly. It's a very, very sticky job, but all you're wanting to do is fill your hemisphere cake tins. If you are going to model this hat freehand, because you don't have the tins, you need to let these Rice Krispie treats cool down a lot more first. And it really is as simple as this. So I'm going to continue to fill all 3 of my half bowl tins and then show you what to do next. You want to do this next step whilst it's still relatively warm but not too warm. So all I've got is a cake board with some baking parchment on to prevent everything from sticking, because remember we are going to be covering this hat in the lovely Renshaws Poppy Red Fondant. I'm going to take the largest half bowl tin first and simply remove the Rice Krispie treats. Now, because they're still relatively warm, it could lose its shape slightly, but that one hasn't. The more you work with them, the easier they are to work with. I then thought it'd be good, instead of just having a dome and just putting on a little tassel, I thought it'd be a good idea to give it a bit more dimension, which is where these come in. Rice Krispie treats, whilst they are still soft, will stick to more Rice Krispie treats underneath, just like this one is doing here. But the issue we have is we don't want this part getting too big. And we're then going to end up with a lovely bulge on the top of the hat. But what I want to do just here, if you can see, I'm just patting down these Rice Krispie treats to distort them. I don't want this to stay perfect oval. I want there to be a flat part just here for when I add the next piece. So be creative. Like I said, you can always do this completely freehand and create your own version. As you are aware, I am also working with a cake dummy. So what I would recommend for a real cake is to dowel the cake, and you can actually place this directly on top without it needing to be on a board, just because the Rice Krispies, the dowels are not going to go through Rice Krispies. They set lovely. So if I put that at an angle, can you see how I've distorted it and changed it just there? A bit further here, because I'm just going to look down from the top and try and keep it central as well. And then my final lot of Rice Krispie treats. If you want, you can just add the initial dome, but I wanted to give it a bit more of a effect, because then his little tassel can just go at the top. But his hat's got some definition to it and some shape. You've done it using simple pieces of equipment that all bakers will have eventually, because you'll realise just how versatile these amazing tins are. But we've kept it extremely simple.
If I just hold that up, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Something just that little bit different. It's not smooth, it's a hat shape. You're going to leave this to set now. Now, I like to cover mine with some cling film just whilst it cools down. When this is cool, you'll be amazed at just how sturdy it is. So if you cover it with some cling film first and then just pop it in your fridge to let it go nice and cool. So to cover Santa Claus's hat, we are again just going to be using basic equipment that most cake decorators will already have. So I've got a rolling pin and my spacers again. I am choosing to use Renshaw's Poppy Red fondant. You're going to need 500 grams in total. I have my smoothers, a sharp knife, some icing sugar and a turntable just to keep things easy. You can see why I absolutely love Renshaw's Poppy Red. This colour is just so vibrant and in your face. So I've rolled it in between my 5mm spacers. Again, you don't need those. They are not a necessity, but they are great to have. I have taken my hat directly out of the fridge. Now, if you want to, you can crumb coat this. That's just when you cover the hat with some buttercream. These marshmallows are still a tad sticky. I've already left it in there for 30 minutes. So they will act like a natural glue when I add this fondant. And if there are any little bumps, personally, because it's a hat, I think it'll just give it a little bit more definition. So it doesn't really need to be crumb coated unless you want it completely smooth. So again, just like with your 6-inch round cake, you lift up the fondant, gently place it over the hat. Now this is a slightly different shape, so you may find it a little bit more fiddly to cover, but just take your time, make sure you get these lovely lumps and bumps in where we've added more definition and negotiate all of the pleats. Now I can continue to smooth that out with my hands a little more in a while. But first of all, take your smoothers and just like before, you want to go around the rim. And then taking a sharp knife, just like before. All you want to do now is just keep on smoothing with your fingers until you've got all of those lovely lumps and bumps coming through that we've added purposefully. And then the next job will be to add this to the cake and start decorating. All I have done here is place the 6-inch round dummy onto a covered cake drum. Now, if it is a cake, you want to leave it in the fridge with the fondant on. Yes, it will sweat when you take it out, but the fondant and the buttercream will be lovely and hard. You will physically be able to move that cake from the baking parchment to the decorated cake drum an awful lot easier without damaging the actual cake. As soon as it reaches room temperature, the sweating on the cake will stop. It's completely normal, it is only condensation. So, yours is a cake, you're going to need to place a few cake dowels. So for me, I will place one in the centre and then one on either side. So in total, there'll be 5 cake dowels. You then want to literally lift up your Rice Krispie treat hat, like so. On here, you will place some buttercream, but obviously this is a fake cake, so we don't need that. And just gently place on the hat. I'm going to work at a slightly different angle now, just so that you can see everything that I'm doing. But I want to start by working on Santa's hat first. So I'm going to show you how to do that little ball, you know, the white one that he has on there. All I've got is a small amount of white Renshaw's fondant, and just start by rolling this into a ball shape. I'm then going to place it on the hat to get a rough idea, and I think that'll work quite nicely, but obviously that's just going to flop off. So this is where the cocktail stick comes into play. I'm going to use a couple just to help support it in place. Now, Don't worry about it being a perfect ball because I'm choosing to do something a little different to it just to add texture. So start by pushing in the cocktail sticks and placing marks where you are going to want it on the actual cake. The reason I have done this, you have to remember, these are Rice Krispie treats. So what I would then recommend you do, using a cocktail stick separately, is push in, just so it creates a little hole for these guys to go in. Then just add a very tiny amount of edible glue. If I just turn this at another angle so it's facing you instead, it's maybe a bit more difficult for me now, but remember this is fondant because I'm not needing it to go rock hard or anything. I actually want it to say stay soft for a while, and I'll show you why in a moment. So once you've got it on there, just shape it. Shape it so you're happy with it. If I turn it back to another angle for you, you can see how it looks gravity defying. But just shape it so you're happy. Make sure it is actually touching the hat and touching the edible glue. Now, I don't want to leave it like that. If I left it like that, it stays really simple. You can if you want to, but there's a very simple technique. Just by taking some very sharp scissors, you want some really small ones, preferably ones that you've only ever used with food. I do this in my Tatty Teddy Bear tutorial. We can make it a bit more Christmas-like, and I'm literally just cutting in to my white ball of fondant. Take your time doing this. If I just hold this up really close to the camcorder so you can see the effect it has, and I will continue to finish it off. You see the difference it makes? So you can do that, or you may not. You may choose to not do that. I'm just going to finish that off and then we will do the rim before we start on the face and the beard. You can see the difference those scissors have made. Now, for the rim of the hat, I've made a small start. I'm just going to give you an idea what to do, so don't bore you to death. But you literally just need to roll a ball of your white Renshaws fondant. Again, a small amount of edible glue, this time directly onto the cake, and the Rice Krispie treats, because you're just filling in that gap. Just push them down. Now, I don't want to do them all at once because I don't want this fondant to start to go dry. I'm now literally going to sit and repeat the process that I have done for this tassel on the top, but for each separate ball, just to give it that extra va-va-voom. So if I just hold this up closer to the camcorder so you have an idea. I've started doing it on that, but it needs finishing, but look at that lovely tassel on the top. It's an amazing effect and so simple to achieve. I will continue to do the rest of the hat, show you the results, and then we're going to make a start on the face and the beard. So this is how it will look when the hat is completely finished. I will give him a full turnaround for you when he is completed so you can see the whole cake. So the three main colours we're going to need for his face. Another packet of Renshaws white. You will have had some left over when you coloured some of it the chestnut colour, but I've used a lot of that on the rim. I'm choosing to give Santa blue eyes, so a lovely turquoise blue and the Renshaws jet black. The first thing I want to apply is the nose. Now there's a reason these tools are here. I'm just going to move to the side. The front of my cake is this area. So I'm going to use this as a guide for the nose. So using my Dresden tool on the cake drum, going straight up and in to the centre. And I'm just going to put a little hole. That is where my nose will go. All I have done is rolled out a very small amount of the leftover chestnut coloured Renshaws fondant into a bowl. But I don't want it on there like a ball. I need it to be flatter so it actually sticks and stays where I want it to. So using your thumb, if I just move it up here, on your work surface like I do with many of my tutorials, just push it down gently into the shape that you want. Okay, very simple. Again, I will show you how that looks when I place it up towards the camera. Now I'm going to show you how to do the eyes. The eyes are relatively simple to make, but we're going to do most of the work on this board here. So all I've started to do, here I have a ball of white fondant. As you can see again, I've already started by pushing one down. Now I want these eyes equal. I am going to have them facing me, but you can see how I'm working with them. So this other ball of fondant, I am now going to make sure it's in an oval shape, but it's equal to the size of this. So I've chosen to use the gorgeous Turquoise Renshaws blue. Now obviously you can see you don't need much at all here. All we're going to do is take a very small amount, very small, and you're going to place it in the bottom right hand corner of your oval. I like to use the ball tool to gently push these down and into shape. Now if you've watched any of my cupcake tutorials, you will see that this is how I shape the eyes. So to add them to the cake, again a small amount of edible glue. The next job is to create the moustache. Now I am going to be creating this effect, so I'm not going to use modelling paste, I'm only going to use fondant and some simple circle cutters. So I've rolled out, it's not too thin, because obviously I'm wanting to get the scissors in there, and I've got some different size circle cutters here. And then I'm just going to use my hands to work it into the shape that I want. So I've just added the moustache. This is what I love about cakes. Something so simple can really bring it to life. I used my hands whilst it was on the cake to get it the correct shape. And then again, just using the scissor technique, like I have done with the hat, I've given it more definition. There's just one more thing I want to add for the mouth, just before we start on the beard. Now the beard will really finish this off. Just a small amount of edible glue. Now remember, I'm keeping everything very simple. Great for a beginner baker, but you'll be creating something so outstanding they won't believe that you've only just started baking. A very small amount of black fondant and place it into the mouth. And now you're just going to use your fingers at first, but like I did with the eyes, I find to get the shape easier to work with, use the ball tool. Perfect, and now I'm going to show you how to add that fantastic beard. He's almost finished. Oh, don't you just love it when things start to come together? Right. For the beard, I'm going to be making modelling paste. So I've just got a small amount of my Renshaws fondant, and I'm just going to add a small amount of tylo powder to it. This will just make it a lot easier to work with, and it will set relatively hard. Normally I would say add 1 level teaspoon of tylo powder to every 250 gram of fondant. Obviously we don't have that much here. We only have a small amount, so I'm only going to use a small amount of powder. You just simply knead this in to your fondant, and this will make it into modelling paste. So icing sugar on your surface. A lot of this is just going to be completely freehand. I'm going to start by rolling this out relatively thin, but not too thin. Now around the mouth, I don't want any modelling paste obviously, or the eyes, and I want it to go onto the drum. So I do want a relatively long beard going onto the drum, but I do not want it around the eyes. So I'm going to start by giving myself a guide. These are great for giving yourself a guide. Then using a sharp knife, I can come further out. Remember, the beard wants to go all the way up to the hat. A really long beard, really long. It is modelling paste and it will stick. Like I said, keep on adding some edible glue. And then we're going to just finish off the perfect beard effect. This is what I have so far. Now you're probably wondering what in God's name I'm doing here. I've been looking at this modelling paste and it needed to be on there as a template, but it's going to be too thin to cut into. So all I am doing is rolling out sausage shapes and just gently placing them on there. And then I've got something to use my scissors on and to cut into. Now if you don't want to do this, you're still going to need that basic template, so the first part that we did, but you could roll out balls instead. Those would look really good, especially if you don't want to do the scissor technique. So I'm just going to continue to cover this, and then it will literally just be a case of getting my very, very fine scissors. And if I start here and show you again, just repeating exactly what I did to the hat and the bauble and the tash. So I will continue to do this and then show you our very, very cute Christmas Santa cake. And this is what you are aiming to achieve. Now, can you imagine this if it was a 6-inch fruit cake? Brand delicious, absolutely delicious, with just your Rice Krispie treats on the top for the hat. It's a fantastic alternative and a different, unique way to decorate a Christmas cake. There's just one little thing I want to add to give it that extra. It's Christmas, we want a bit of sparkle, that extra va-va-voom, as I always say. It's a Claire Bowman completely edible glitter dust, and it's in a little pump. So if I just move to the side, and I'm literally just going to dust in, because it's Christmas, we want a bit of sparkle. You don't need too much, and if you don't get too close, you just get a nice, gentle, Christmassy finishing. Happy baking, guys. I hope I've helped you again today. Give it a go and I will be back very soon with more unique, different and simple tutorials.